Okay, I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, so I'm back now. I think what I intend to cover today is we'll have a look at tables and maybe some more figures to put into our documents. I want to talk about tabs. I'm pretty sure everybody's at least a little bit familiar with what tabs do. I will also cover columns. So by default, you're using a single column, but we'll go over how to use multiple columns. Oh, just a second. Sashin's trying to get into class. So just sent them a link and hopefully they get it right away. Is there anything else? Oh, and then we'll do a table of content and a table of figures. So how familiar is everybody with using tables in Word? Okay. Okay. That's not a problem. Let me just... Okay. Just give me a minute. I'm just going to get my screen shared properly. Does anybody happen to have a phone number for Shannon, Bear Chief? Can you email it to me? And then I'm going to just stop and call her. I was supposed to get her into the class. Oops, that's wrong. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to pause for a second and try and give her a call. Okay, she's just trying to log in right now. Can everybody see my my Word document? Yeah, okay, perfect. Hi, Amanda. We're just waiting for one more person to log in, and then we'll get started. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Okay, looks like Shannon is here now. Sorry we're getting started so late. In the future, I think we'll do like I'll be here at 4:30, and maybe we'll make the first 20 minutes of class for questions. So if you had no questions or didn't need anything from the last class, then you can show up at 4:50 or something like that. And we'll try that for a couple classes, and if nobody's coming with questions, then maybe we'll just start right at 4:30 again. Okay, so let's get on with tables here. So to insert a table into a Word document, it's as easy as going on the Insert tab on the top, and then under Tables, you just point to that, and you can pick right up front how many rows and columns you want. A lot of times it's just as easy just to pick like one row, and I'll show you why now. So if I just create a table with three columns and just one row, as soon as you start putting stuff in, and you can press Tab to go on to the next available cell. So if you're at the right hand, the cell in the furthest right hand, and you press Tab, it'll go to the one in the next row on the left. And if the one on the row in the next if the next row doesn't exist, then it creates a new row for you. And when you're within a table, by default, it'll go into the Design tab once you're inside of it. We'll click out, it'll go away, and then you can go back in. So they have some table formats here that are predefined. I'm not a real huge fan of most of them, but you can just easily pick one. If you want to add a title underneath your table, you can right-click on this little arrow thingy in the top left and go Insert Caption. And then it'll, by default, it'll put a table and then the number of the table, and then you can add your title for it. And then there's a couple options. You can put it above or below. I think I prefer to put them below typically. And you can also tell it to exclude the label. If I do that, it doesn't type table in the first. It just puts the number that it is. Oops, I forgot to change that to underneath. There we go. So once you've created your caption, it is a separate entity from the table. So you can just edit it like any other text in your document. And it assigns it to, under all the styles, there's a caption style. So it'll always be, so that will be managed when you manage all of your other styles and pick a theme for your document. Under the tables, there's some quick ones. I don't know if I've ever actually used any, but there's some that are pre-formatted. Is my screen what you're seeing fuzzy for everybody else? Oh, okay. Let me. How about if I'm just on camera? Am I fuzzy? Oh, really? Okay, shoot. It should be. Does it look okay for anybody? Oh, okay. So hover over where I am, and there's like a thumbtack looking thing. Click on that. So if you pin mine, does it help? Shoot. Um, let me grab a laptop so that I can see exactly what you guys are seeing. I'll log in under another account and join so I know exactly what you're seeing. Oh, okay. I think, yeah. Did that make it any better for anyone? A little bit, okay. Let me see if there's another way too. Is that even better? If I present now, so you can unpin my video if you pinned it. And then if you pin the presentation, it's even better. Okay. Okay. So what I was doing was instead of like sharing normally in Google Meet, I was sending it through a virtual camera, but Google Meet only allows camera inputs up to 720p, but the resolution of my monitor is 1080, so I will just share it this way. For now, I will leave it so you'll see it in both as my camera and as my presentation, because I've been recording what I'm showing you through something else, and in order for it to record it, it has to be shown on a virtual camera. So, all right, just give me a second. We'll back up and go back to the beginning. Oh. Okay, so we'll start again with the tables. So to add a table to your document, just put it. So put your cursor where you want your table to go. In this case, it's just an empty document. But then under Insert, there's a tables section. If you click on the little down arrow, then you can just create an empty table with how many ever columns and rows that you want. But if you just start with a single row is good enough in most cases. If you start, unless you already know how big it is but don't have your data to put into it. Because as you go along, every time you hit tab, it goes to the next available cell. And then if you're in the rightmost column and hit tab again, it'll go down to the next row, and if there's not another row, then it will create it. And you can actually just keep going through without entering stuff too. Now along the top, there's a bunch of predefined table styles, similar to all these styles that we looked at last week. So you can just look through them and pick one that you think looks good. That looks horrible. All of these options you can manually modify on your own. So if you click on this little arrow thingy in the top left corner, and then if you right click on it, you can go to Table Properties. Under Table Properties, you can do things like under the cells, you can center them vertically. If your table is just single rows, then you typically won't need to change that. But maybe sometimes you will have some cells with multiple rows in the cells itself, and then you might want to keep the others centered. So under the Design tab for your tables, you can manually change the borders that you want. So there's this under the borders. There's the little borders box with the bottom with the little arrow down on it. So from within there, you can just turn on and off. Oh. And if you want to do it to everything, click on that little arrow box again. And then you can quickly set it to all borders. Then maybe you want to turn off any one of these single ones, like maybe you just want to turn the far left border off. You can turn that off. And that border, those work on individual cells, any group of selected cells, or the whole table. So for example, if I'm just in this one cell, oops, and I didn't want any borders for that cell and that's it, then I would go like that. So let's turn that back on. Turn them all back on. You can adjust the widths and stuff of individual borders. So we could pick a different style. So maybe I want to pick this heavy black one for maybe between the first and second rows. So pick that. I can click on that, and if I click on the left one again, it'll set it to that thicker one that I wanted. Other tools that are handy with tables. Sometimes you'll want, you can add rows by right-clicking somewhere. You can go Insert, and you can say a column to the left, to the right, a row above it, or a row below it. Say I wanted to make a title in here, and I wanted that title to span the whole width of the table. If I highlight all three of them, and then right-click on them, there is an option to merge cells. So if I click on that, it takes and merges all three of those cells together. There's a similar tool for splitting cells into two or more. So again, select the cell that you want, right-click on it, and go Split Cells, and that gives you the option to split it into how many ever columns and rows that you want. So it's kind of a table within a table now. Adjusting the widths of your columns is very easy. So if you click in a cell and make sure you have your rulers on, at the top you'll notice some little handles there. If you grab one of those, you can just drag and change that. And you notice it's acting kind of funny at the top because they don't line up with each other anymore. So if you, let me go back again so you'll see what I did there. So any handle that lines up with each other will move together. So you notice just the 3 top rows are moving together now because they don't line up with anything else. If I drag it so that it, okay, that's a unique. So because, okay, for some reason when it's on that side, it'll drag it with it. But if we line them up again and drag them, I'll have to figure out why, how they actually work that way. So you can also just paint the borders into your document with this border painter. If you just click on that, then you can just draw them in. Then you have different styles. There used to be more like dashed lines and stuff. Oh, that's interesting. So if you go on there, go border sampler. If I click on one of these, notice that it's set that as the active style. Turn that off. Now, usually you're going to want some kind of title on your, or caption for your table. So if you click on this, right click on the little arrow box in the top left, then go insert caption. Automatically it sets the caption type to table. You could change this label so that it said whatever you wanted, but it's a table, so we'll leave it at table. You can choose whether you want it to go above or below. I prefer to keep them below. We can tell it not to actually put table in by clicking this exclude label from caption. Then we can also add our own text to this caption. Okay. So from that little arrow box gives you most of the tools you need to work with the tables too. Like you can go like this and quickly get to different border options. You can manually change the colors of the rows. Does my window keep going bigger and smaller on your screen? No. Oh, okay. I can see it. I pinned it on mine too, and it just keeps going bigger and smaller a little bit. So pretty much all of the functions that are available to any kind of text is available within a cell of a table. These table styles, let me just pick a better one. So you can, again, click in there, and then you can click the down arrow and go modify table style, or you can just totally clear it. But if we edit it, you can base it off of one of those predefined styles. But seeing that we picked it from there, we might as well just leave it as the default one. You can pick your colors. Sorry, this is quite a bit different than I think 2013 was, or maybe even older. I haven't done this in a while. So for now, let's leave it at that on tables, and if anybody wants to know more about customizing the styles, we can revisit that. Let's just make a note. Okay, so how about on the next we let's talk about how to use tabs effectively. Sorry. So by default, I think tabs are set to 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to go to a new page. So if I'm sitting here and I type something and then I hit tab, it's going to go to the first 1/2 inch increment. So let me just, so if I scroll up, you can see it lines up with 1/2 inch at the top. And if I type some more, I went past 1 inch where the next tab would be. So if I hit tab again, instead of going to the 1 inch, it's going to go to 1.5 inch. It's going to go to the next increment of 1/2 inch. And that it also relies on whether you've got your units set to inches or centimeters. So I'll just quickly mention how to do that. So if you go under File and Options, under Advanced, I believe it is. Yeah, there we go. So under Advanced, you scroll down to Display. You can change your measurement units from centimeters to inches. So Word by default still bases all your measurements off of inches. It just displays them in centimeters if you select centimeters. So your tab increments would be 1.27 centimeters instead of 1/2 inch. Okay, so we can adjust those. We can tell it to be a different increment, or we can tell it exactly where we want all of our tabs to go. And ultimately, we're going to want to tell it where we want the tabs to go. But first, if you go under Layout, under Paragraph, and click on this little pop-out button on the bottom right-hand corner of the Paragraph section, then down at the bottom, there's a button for tabs. If you click on that, you end up with this window here. And then here we have what our default tab stops are set to. You can set it to any number. Maybe we want 0.75. And notice how it shifted that over. Just let me back up a second. Sorry. Let's do that again. Go tabs again. Just give me 1 second to check something. I thought that it would only apply it to the current paragraph. But I never actually use it this way. I've never changed the default tab stops. All right, I'll look at that up later. Okay, so the other way that we could we can tell it where we specifically want our tabs. We can go through the same way. This is the long. I'll show you the long way first. So if we go there again, go to tabs again. I can say I want a tab stop. Maybe I want the first one at 1 inch. And then I need to decide what type of alignment I want. So you have 5 options, and we'll quickly look at all of them. Actually, why don't we do... Yeah, we'll look at them all at once. So let's add a tab stop at 1 inch. We'll leave it as a left one, and that's the default ones. And we click set. Let's say we want one at 2. I'll put in the measurement. Let's make this one a centered one. We'll set that one at 3 inches. We'll make it a right one. We'll set that one at 4 inches. A decimal one. We'll set that one. And now at 5 inches, we will put a bar one. Click set and OK. Notice at the top here, it added these little symbols. They either look like an L, a backwards L, or a little upside down T. And then there's one that's just like a straight up and down line, and then also an upside down T with a dot. So let's look at how those work. So I'm going to go just put some stuff here. I don't know why I didn't go straight to the... So the first three, it's probably pretty obvious, see what's going on. So if you look at A and, actually I can, let me get rid of the spacing between the rows. Oops. So that it's easier to see. So A, that's a left tab, meaning that it's going the left side of the rows that you tab to the same place are going to line up with each other. And then the next one is the centered one. And then the right one, which is the C, or has C and 3 in it. So it lines up the right-hand side of the words instead of the left. And then the next two, you can't see what's going on yet because those are meant for numbers. Okay. So I'm just going to tab over to this one, and it's meant for numbers with decimals. So you notice it lines up the decimal in the words. So this would be good for like a price list, or especially if your numbers don't have the same number of decimals. So if you notice, if we put these same two numbers in the previous, in the right-hand line one, it still lines up together because it's lining up the right hand. But as soon as we add another decimal, your decimal no longer lines up. Let me just confirm that I'm using the bar one correctly. Okay. So it looks like this bar tab one is not even like it doesn't, it's not a tab that you can tab to. It just creates these bars. Okay, yeah, so I've never used those ones before. And probably never will. So here's an example of a combination of two types of tabs that might come in useful. So you notice we've got these tabs that I already defined still there. I probably don't want them continuing on. So if I go through the same way, paragraph tabs, I can click clear all. So now they're gone from there. Now I'm back to just the plain old every half an inch. But if I click up into here, you can see that they're all still there. So somewhere you might want to use something for tabs would be like maybe a menu or something, or some kind of price list. And so maybe we want the item for sale all lined up along the left, and then over on the right hand side we want the prices. Actually, let's set up the tabs before I start typing stuff. Instead of going all the way through where I went paragraph and then the tabs button, there's a much easier way to do this. Click on, you see in the top left corner, just to the right of the navigation pane, there's a little symbol that looks like an L right now. If you click on that, that changes to the different tab types. So if we click through, so in our case we only actually need to add one, and if we're going to make it prices, we might as well use the decimal one. So if I click through until it looks like an upside down T with a little dot next to it, I can just click on there. Oh wait, sorry. Okay. So get it back to the one that you want, and then all you have to do is click on your ruler at the top, and it adds the tabs that you want. So maybe I wanted a left tab before that. Again, switch it to the one that I want, click it where I want it. And now if I hit tab right away, it goes to that first one. I just won't bother with the $sign. Something that you might want, especially in this price list kind of thing, is you might want a line going from the item on the left-hand side to its price on the right-hand side to make it easier to keep them lined up. If you want to change the anything to do with any of the tabs, you can double click on one of them, and it brings us back to that first menu that we were using. So the one at 4 1/4 inches is the one that I'm going to want to change. So if I click on that one, down at the bottom it gives us some options for liters. You have a dotted line, a dashed line, and then an underline. So let's use the dotted one and click set again. And OK. So now that connects them with the dotted line. So you might find that useful in some cases. Any questions on that? I think that's about it for tabs. That covers pretty much all of it. Okay, let's look at how to use columns. And then we'll take a short break so that I can get something ready to show you how to make a table of content. Okay, so if you want multiple columns, I'm just going to make a bunch of text here. Let me just go to a new page though. For anybody that wasn't here last week and haven't watched the video, this lorem thing, if you type equals lorem and then give it two numbers. The first number is going to be a number of paragraphs, and then the second number is the number of sentences per paragraph. Last week I told you it was the number of rows, but it's the number of sentences, which is why it didn't match up with the number of rows. And that just gives you some random text. And I want that normal, so I've got some spaces. Okay, so maybe I want to include these in several columns along the page. So you can highlight whatever you want to be in your columns. Go on the layout. Sorry, I think I'm misleading you. I don't think you need to highlight it. Just hang on a second. Yeah, okay. So you don't need to highlight your text. Just go to the first where you want your columns to start. And then that'll do like that. So this looks kind of goofy. We told it we wanted three columns, but it stuffed everything into two. We can manually insert column breaks. So let's say we want to force it to go after this, or sorry, before this paragraph. We'll want it to go on to the next column. So under layout, under breaks, you can just go column break. And so that forces it from there to the next column. And we can do the same thing. No, we want to go another break and a column break again. You can manually do that, or I'll just make a new one. Switch back to 1 for a second. Actually, no, we'll leave it at 3. So if I switch back to a single column, then it'll shift it into the 3 columns as evenly as it can. So if I highlight the end of it and go to layout, go to columns, and select that back to 1, then it pushes it up into the 3 columns. If we had a lot of text, like a newspaper or something, that was a little too much. If we again tell it to use 3 columns, it's going to go page by page, fill up, so it'll go down the first column, down the second column, down the third column, then to the next page. So last week I mentioned the layout tabs, or not layout tabs, how to turn on your formatting display from the home tab. turn this on. I was just turning that on because I wanted to see if I could figure out why this first column starts one line down. I'm not sure. Oh, why did that get changed? Okay, yeah, it had something to do with that. I'll have to figure that out. So, by default, the columns are all the same width. You could manually, or you could manually type in which columns you want to be how wide. So if you go to that same columns button, click on it, and more columns. You've got some options here. So one that's just a narrow one on the left. But let's say we want to stay with 3, but we want to change the width of maybe the first one. So if you just uncheck this equal column width, you can start reducing. If you start reducing 1, then the other 2 will grow. Under the more columns again, you can tell it to have a vertical line between them. And I don't know why one is thicker than the other. You can also, instead of doing that, you can just grab the handle at the top on the ruler. What? Maybe because I already did it that way, it won't let me know. I should be able to just drag these around. If I highlight everything? I'll make a note of that and we'll figure it out later. No. Okay, so I'll figure out why these 2 lines are different and why we can't drag them around, and then we'll revisit it. Actually, let me quickly here though. So unless nope. Okay, we will figure that out later. Was there anything else I said at the beginning that I was going to show you that I haven't yet, other than the table of contents and the table of figures? No. Okay. Let's take um probably 20-minute break here so I can get something put together to show you how to add the other things. And then we'll also, at the end, I would like to go, I told you we would go more details into headers and footers. We will do that as well. Yeah, that should take up most of the rest of the time. So after break, we'll come back, look at how to add a table of content, how to add a table of figures, and then some more details on headers and footers, as well as, or sorry, not as well as, but as part of that, how to do page numbering. So I mentioned last week that you can have one section and have your pages numbered with Roman numerals, and then restart that somewhere further down in the document and go to just a decimal, so 1 to 10. Okay, so let's take a break for 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll get going again. Okay, we'll give a few more minutes for people to come back. I think there's a few that are not on anymore. Is Shannon the only one that's gone that was here before? Oh, Deanna was here too. Did anybody notice what time it was when we stopped for break? No. It's been about 15 though, right? Okay. So there was one other thing that I planned on showing you, but forgot about till a minute ago, and that's graphs and charts. Oh, there we go. Okay, I think that's everybody that was here before, right? Oops. Okay. So charts and graphs, you can have them retrieve your data from elsewhere, or just use data that you manually put in here. If we have time, we'll come back and learn about how to use data from an Excel spreadsheet, or maybe even from Access. But just for a simple graph that we have all the data, and we'll just put it in manually here. You can just go under the insert, and go on chart. And once you click on that, that gives you a whole bunch of options for different probably columns and lines are probably the most widely used. You'll probably use them more than anything else. So let's just start off with an example of the line. You've got the most basic one that only shows a line, and then the next most basic is the lines with markers. And then stacked lines. Let's start with it. Let's look at a few of them. Let's just start with the line graph, and we'll go. Just pick that one. Go OK, and it pops up a little window that looks like Excel. You can actually, there's a button on that to open it in Excel, and it will open the actual Excel program. Oh, you can't see that, can you? Sorry, just hang on a second. Let me just undo that and then change what I'm sharing so you can actually see it. Just make sure I share the right one. Okay. So one more time, just under the insert, go to chart, and we will look at a line. So just click on it, and then if you hover over it, it expands it so you can see a little better of the example. And click OK. Oh, sorry. It squashed it because I'm still on a single column. Or sorry, I'm still on 3 columns. Okay, so I've just switched it back to a single column. Let's do that again. Insert chart line, the simple line, and click OK. Okay, that looks a lot better. And now you can see this little box that popped up. And just trying to think of random things. So maybe we got these 3 guys, and we're tracking something that they're doing in January, February, or March. So then you can see that Joe's line is the blue line, and if we change any of these number under Joe, then it changes his line. So there's really not too much more to say about it. Just like the pictures and stuff that we looked at last week, your layout options are the same. You can have it with text wrapping around it, tight through. So these are exactly the same options. You can have it in front of it or in. Yeah, so this inline, usually if I make a chart, I want it to be the whole width of my page. So it's most likely that I'm going to want it to be in line with my text because it's not going to be, the text will just be on top and on bottom of it, and it'll move with the text best. So we can modify our styles by just clicking on this little paintbrush after we select it. They've expanded this in the recent editions. That's an interesting one. Within the chart area, you can drag things around. And manually place them wherever you want them. You can even move things like, oh, maybe that one will let us move that. I wouldn't mess around too much with trying to manually place things. 'Cause then if you break them and they don't, your table might not update correctly after that. To get back into your data, just double click. Wait, not anymore. Okay, sorry. Sometimes that works. No, okay, right click on it and go edit data. And that brings up this little window again. So what if you want to add more? Another person, just extend another column. And then close that. And it automatically added another line for Johnny. We'll have a quick look at maybe the bar graphs now too. Or they call them a column. So go OK. And exactly the same thing again. We start changing numbers here. Okay, here if you click on this little green plus sign, we can turn off different elements in our chart with ease. We can even turn the legend off. When I put it back on, I put it in a different spot. Oh, we can even have it show our table underneath. Labels so that we see our actual numbers. Okay, maybe maybe we'll revisit that again for formatting the tables a little more granularly later on. Sorry, not tables, of our charts. You can copy these from one document to another. So if you just highlight it, click on it so everything's highlighted, Control C. I think this is the one we want. Yeah, and then we can paste it anywhere into another document. Oops, wrong one. Yeah, I'll just drop this in here somewhere randomly. Okay. So now let's go on to page numbering. Can you still see the same document? Okay, so now you see one that has, it says wait, one more on it. Okay. Okay, so let me just scroll through this and you'll get an idea of what the layout's kind of like. So I've just started out with the title page. This is my document, and then just a single paragraph or and a subtitle, and then I don't know why. Okay. So title page, and then a foreword, an introduction, and then goes into the into the actual document. We've got some charts, a bunch of sections, and a picture, another chart. So what we probably want is the title page doesn't need a page number. The foreword and the introduction we want to have the page numbers in Roman numerals, and then we want the rest of them to be in decimal and starting again at 1. So let's just start up here at the top. And go into, double click to get into the header or footer. Let's just work with the footers right now. So notice it says header section 1 right now. And then we go to header section 2. And then notice over on the right hand side it says same as previous. So that's referring to the previous section. So if we're in here, at the top under header and footer design, under the navigation section, if you click on link to previous, or you uncheck that, now notice that it says header section 2, and that same as previous went away. It treats the headers and footers separately, so if we want to unlink the this one to unlink it from the last one, we'll just do the same thing in the footer. Uncheck link to previous. And then can you still hear me? Okay. Okay, so we've unlinked the footer from the previous section. We could pick a footer and add. Yeah, let's just do it. So I'm going to pick 3. No, let's not worry about a footer style just yet. And I'm just going to put the page number in this spot right where it is. So I can go page number, current position, and then I just want plain numbers. Okay, but like I mentioned, we want those to be the Roman numerals. So to change that, click on the page numbers again, and go down to Format Page Numbers. And you can have a number format, and there is the Roman numerals down there. And click OK. So we've got Roman numerals. Let's just turn this off again. But, so notice that that's our first one that we used, and it says 2, but we want it to say 1. So go under the page numbering again, Format Page Numbers, and instead of leaving it selected on Continue from Previous Section, click Start At, and put it to I, and click OK. So now that gives us I on the first page, and we have to change the so the page numbering format will stay this, will be individual in the sections. So any section that has sorry, I don't want to set that, change that. I just want to change the style. Any section that has, that we want our page numbers to be Roman numerals, we need to manually change them all. I didn't really need to set, oh wait, I went one too many. Okay. I didn't need to make all of these different sections. Like I could have made my document, and especially this forward and introduction, I could have made those all the same section and just used regular page breaks instead of section breaks. And then I would have only had to change the style one time. But, yeah, I changed one too many, so I'm going to change that back to 1, 2, 3. But again, we're starting at 3 after all the Roman numeral stuff, where we want this to be page 1. So again, the page numbers, format page numbers, and start at 1. Click OK, then we have 1. And if we scroll through, we see we go 2, 3, and on until the last page. So let's just leave headers and footers at that for now. And let's do our table of content. So let's put our table of content on the page right after our title page. So I'm going to insert a break here. And notice now that I inserted this, I've got 2 page I's. So I need to go and change that one again. Switch this one back to continue from previous. Now I have I, where our table of content is going to go, then I, and so on. So get out of our headers And to insert a table of content, it's going to put all of this stuff that we see on the left on our navigation pane. It'll automatically put all of that stuff in for us. So it's on the Review tab. Where is it? Which one is it on? Sorry, it's on the References tab, not the Review tab. And then it's all the way over on the left. And just click the button, Table of Contents. It brings down a few different options. I'm just going to pick this one here. I think the only difference between them is one says Table of Contents and one says just Contents. So yeah, so we can see that all of those are accurate. Our forward is on page II, our introduction is on page III, and our stuff starts on page 1. And that's really all there is to it, to inserting it. So the next thing to consider is what happens if you move stuff around. So let's say this first section, or let's, if we say this section gets a bunch longer all of a sudden, and that now, I think, pushed, let's add even a little more. So now that pushed the next couple sections onto the next page. So this one, so everything's going to be on the wrong numbers up in our table of content. And so we have to manually tell it to update things. So these ones, you see they're on page 4. But here it still says they're on page 3. So in order to update that, just click in your table of content, and then up at the top left, there's a button that says Update Table. So you have two options when you come in here to update page numbers only. And if we click that, OK, you notice that it did fix all of our page numbers for us. But what happens if we add something to our document? Look, let's say that here, do you want to mute your mic, Sachin? No problem. Okay. So I was just saying, maybe we add a section in the middle here somewhere. And then go back up here. If we just let it updo the numbers only, then that thing that we added doesn't show up. If we tell it to update the entire table, there's that other piece that I just stuck in there. Okay. So the next thing that I was going to show you is a list of, the table of figures. So in order for that to work, all of our figures, including, So let's just scroll through and look at them all. So including our tables, all need to have they all need to have a tag on them, or a caption. So insert a caption. And tell it to below or above. And go through, make sure we have captions on everything. Did I label all those others as tables? Oh, gee, it's a chart. Oh, and we can make custom labels here too. So if I want charts, chart 1. And even though there's a chart up here, once we give it the labels, it'll automatically fix the numbering for us. So this one's 1. If we scroll down here, it fixed that one to 2. And now that the other 2 aren't called tables anymore, why did that one get broken? They can be kind of finicky, so sometimes you'll have to delete some of them and put them in again. While still calling it 3. Oh, but no, we want, yeah, sorry. We want this one to be a table now. Same thing for images. And I think that's it. So let's insert it after our table of content on a new page. Okay. So because I was just wondering why oh, okay, that works now. Sorry, when you start adding multiple breaks and you get breaks next to each other, they do funny things. So you notice when I sorry. when I just inserted the page break, because it's right before a section break. Oh, no, it doesn't. What's going on? Okay, I gotta leave that return there. So when I added a section break, or sorry, a page break right before the section break, my cursor didn't go to the new page because it's sandwiched between a section break and a page break, and it also gave the funny formatting. So if I delete that, and now if I were to start typing, now it goes to the other page. We'll make this a heading. For some reason, it does, if you insert a table of content, it'll do the title for you, but the table of figures is different. I would have thought that you would make it act exactly the same, but that's not quite the case. Okay, so same for the table of figures is also under the References tab. And there's an Insert Table of Figures button. You click on that, it gives you some options. We go OK. And it formats very similar to the table of contents. But it only inserted. Okay, let me just back up. So let's do that again. Caption. Maybe we have to do them all separately. So yeah, so it just did the charts. Just give me a second, I gotta. Okay. So when we go to insert it, you have a few options here. Under the general, it by default just gave us the charts. But if we go under the options and pick it from a style instead, and pick caption, then it all of a sudden ignores the caption label and just puts everything in that uses the caption style. So we could at any spot insert a line with a caption. And again, we got to go to the References tab, click on the Update table, and update entire table. And it included that line that I put in there. Where did I put? Oh, it was in the introduction. Okay, I was just confused for a second why it gave it that number, but it was because I put it where we were still numbering those something like that. So I think that's it for table of figures and table of content. Does anybody have any questions? No, okay. Is there anything that I said I was going to cover tonight that I didn't? Okay. Is there anything anybody wants me to cover? We've got about a half hour left if anybody has anything else they want to go over. More about which? Oh, yes, we will. Is that the thing that you are most interested in learning the most about? Okay. Yeah, I'm not certain what order we will go in. Hopefully, maybe by the end of, at most, we'll have one more class on Word. Actually, probably only a half of one, because we only had 8 weeks total. Yeah, maybe one more on Word. I think ones like PowerPoint, they'll go pretty quick. Excel is one of the ones that you could spend a ton of time on. Most people don't need to, but if that's what would be most beneficial to a lot of people, we can. And yeah, PowerPoint probably only spend like 1 week on it. All right. Is everyone good with finishing here for the night then? Okay. Okay, perfect. Thanks. Oh, Deanna already left. I was going to see if she wanted to